What's going on, guys? Jay the Black here. Salute to everyone tuning in. I want to talk about Stephen A. Smith. Stephen A. Smith, as you all know, is now a YouTuber. He's posting commentary on YouTube. He goes live. He posts clips as well. And he spoke about the ESPN purge, and that's exactly what it is. Now, do we know that it's about money? Yes. Are there other things going on there? I would say no as of right now. But it looks to me that ESPN is clearing a lot of money because they went and spent a lot of money. You look at them bringing in Pat McAfee. You look at when they brought in Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. They paid them a lot of money. And, of course, Stephen A. Smith himself is making a very good salary. He would like to make more. But they've been spending more so on talent that they feel like deserves to make that type of money. And I think that they are letting go of people who they deem to not be important to their bottom line. You see, the one thing about companies like ESPN, they will hire a lot of people. And it's going to get to a point where that company is not making the money they once were. You know what's going to happen? They are going to close locations. They're going to lay off a lot of people. And Stephen A. Smith himself is saying how he doesn't feel safe. He doesn't feel safe at all. Even though he's making upwards of $12 million a year, he's considered the face of ESPN. He doesn't feel safe. Do I think he believes that? I think to a certain degree he does believe that. But do I think Stephen A. Smith believes he's going to be let go? No. The only way I could see Stephen A. Smith being let go from ESPN is if his contract is not renewed. And if ESPN, in the direction that they are going in, sees success with Pat McAfee or with some of the other additions that they're going to probably make, that they feel like are worth putting a lot of money into, and they say, you know what, let's go in a different direction, that can happen. I'm not saying that Stephen A. Smith is not expendable. I believe anybody can be expendable. And that's why Stephen A. Smith has gone to build up his own platform, which is something he should have done years ago. But I think over the last couple of years, we've seen the decline of ESPN. I think the writing was just on the wall for him. And I think he felt like, you know what, I have to do something now. I have to do something now. Now, I've spoken about Jalen Rose and him being let go. I'll link you to that particular video. And on the other cuts as well. And I talked about the situation with Molly Karam and Stephen A. Smith. There's been a ton of rumors. None have been substantiated, but I find it interesting that they are still there. Stephen A. Smith and Molly Karam are still there. You even have others who are still there, who people feel like shouldn't be, that they feel like a lot of talented people are being let go. And you have a lot of people who are not as talented who are still there. Now, people may say, well, they're cheaper. No, at some point, they're going to renew their contracts and they're going to make more money. So right now, it may seem like they're cheaper, but what happens when they renew their deals? They're not going to be considered cheap anymore as far as contracts is concerned. So I can see why ESPN may want to get rid of some people, but they're getting rid of a lot of people in a lot of different areas. And it's not just because of Pat McAfee. I don't think Pat McAfee should be blamed for this at all. This has everything to do with the fact that ESPN has been in decline for years. And they've made cuts too. Like, ESPN has fired a lot of people over the last couple of years because they were a massive entity within ABC Disney. And because Disney, lost a lot of money due to their streaming service, due to their own political BS, it has trickled down. But I think that the cord cutting, I think ESPN just was bloated, extremely bloated. I think ESPN bought into their own hype. They always thought that they could, they'll power through it, their content through it. And now look at them. They are a declining, failed network due to them overextending themselves, Because again, they have ESPN Plus. I mean, are they really making money with ESPN Plus? Let's get into this article. This is from The Root. ESPN shocked fans on Friday when it laid off several high-profile on-air personalities. Among the popular analysts and commentators who are no longer with the network are Jalen Rose, Jeff Van Gundy, Max Kellerman, Keyshawn Johnson, Steve Young, and Todd McShay. Now, this one, Todd McShay, actually surprised me because Mel Kiper has been at ESPN for a very long time. And the fact that Mel Kiper still has his job and Todd McShay doesn't have his job, because see, Todd McShay was the young up-and-coming guy. You would see Todd McShay on the sidelines of football games, but I don't know that they lose faith in Todd McShay. Is Mel Kiper a good back behind the scenes political guy? How are they just, because again, Todd McShay was coming for Mel Kiper's job, coming for him as far as taking a spot. But what ultimately ended up happening is Mel Kiper is still there and Todd McShay is gone. In the midst of all this upheaval, the network's biggest star, Stephen A. Smith, has commented on his colleague's exit as well as his future with ESPN. ESPN laid off about 30 members of its on-air talent, friends of mine, actually, definitely respected colleagues who've done a phenomenal job and deserved better. He said on the Stephen A. Smith show, it's not Disney or ESPN that they deserve better from. They deserve better than the times we are living in. Don't know what that means, but okay. These are the latest cost-cutting measures from ESPN's parent company, the Walt Disney Company, which in recent months has laid off about 7,000 employees across its various brands and properties during his show. Smith also took time to show love for his NBA Countdown cohort, Rose, noting how he enjoyed their time together. All right. Got a lot of love for that brother. He added a lot of great work he's done over the years, what he's represented for the company. I'm going to miss him. Jalen Rose has always been good to me, and I loved working with him on NBA Countdown. He's a brilliant basketball mind. He is somebody that has worked his ass off all the time. There was never an assignment he backed away from. There was never a time he didn't want to work, but they still fired him. You need reliable people on your platform. You need utility guys, guys that can do multiple different things. You can put them anywhere. They'll fit in. That was Jalen Rose. You don't find a lot of people like that. ESPN may think they can find that, but they can't. The First Take star went on to discuss the possibility of his name being included in future round of layoffs, saying he doesn't take his success for granted. He says, if we're going to be real about it, let's deal with reality. He said, this ain't the end. More is coming. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, I could be next. I told y'all, ESPN has failed so poorly. They failed so badly that he's talking about how they're going to be firing more. Now, I don't think he's talking about behind the scenes people. There are going to be more people who are going to lose their job, who are in front of the camera. Maybe Stephen A. Smith feels like he's going to be one of those people. I just don't see it. Because he's not saying that Stephen A. Smith can't be replaced, but he'll be a very difficult guy to replace. Let's just say that, at least in the short term. Well, since you want realness, Stephen A., let's get real. You are without question ESPN's biggest star. I appreciate that you don't want to get too comfortable, but they are not about to lay you off anytime soon. They are not letting all the ratings, page views, and engagement that you drive ahead to a rival network. However, I know you're trying to be supportive of your former co-workers, and I'm sure they appreciate it. And that's what he's doing. Stephen A. Smith knows they're not going to lay him off. But again, we never know. We never know in this situation. Stephen A. Smith y'all remember, he got fired before. Back in 2009, he abruptly was gone from the company. This guy had a late night show. That's how much they trusted Stephen A. Smith at the time. They were invested in him, and then he was just gone. And then a couple of years later, he's back in ESPN doing First Take. And then now he's gotten to where he is. The only way I could see Stephen A. Smith being laid off is if he has a disagreement with management. If he and management are at odds with each other. And again, it could happen. You remember how Stephen A. Smith did not want Max Kellerman on First Take. And he went public with this. And then Max Kellerman loses his job. And what Stephen A. Smith has to understand is when you go public and say, you know what, yeah, this guy sucked on this show. Basically, I'm paraphrasing, he didn't personally say that, but he basically insinuated that Max Kellerman was a bad fit for that show. And what happened, they took Max Kellerman off the show. The next thing you know, he's not doing his other shows and he's gone. And he's gone. And maybe Stephen A. Smith feels guilty about this. And he's basically saying, hey, you know, I'm not safe, when we all know that they're not firing Stephen A. The only way they would let him go is if, once again, he has a very bad disagreement with management. It's to a point to where, like, you know what, we're better off without him. But I just don't see that happening right now. But I will tell you this, Stephen A. Smith doing his own thing with his own platform, that can cause a little bit of an issue, because again, he has his own thing with FanDuel, and he's building up his audience on his own platform. He's bringing his audience to his own platform. That could cause some jealousy in the upper management. It can. So let me know what y'all think in the comments section. Let me know your thoughts. Like this video and share it. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll see y'all next one.